Good morning and welcome to day 2 of the UC Open Summit. Thank you for returning for day 2. We really appreciate it. And if it's your day 1, in fact, welcome again. So today we're going to start with some opening remarks. First from Virginia, from the UC Santa Barbara OSPO. She's going to tell us about a survey that she ran surveying all of the open source endeavors across the UC. And then I will come back and tell you about the community endeavors across the UC. Yeah.
So yeah, I was asked to talk a little bit about the survey that we conducted as an example of what the UC OSPO network has been up to. So here we go. So we conducted this survey for primarily 2 reasons. The first was outreach and discovery. So we asked folks if they're willing to share, whether they'd like to join our mailing list, what's their GitHub username, so we could kind of look at what they're up to. Obviously, that was all optional. So that was one aspect of the survey. The other aspect, which I'm going to talk about today, was the survey as a needs assessment. And what I mean by that is that we essentially had 2 research questions. Does the University of California need an OSPO, and what should that OSPO look like to understand basically the needs of the UC open source community? So this survey ran a year ago for 1 month in April 2025. It was open to students, faculty, and staff. So a really diverse pool, and it focused on experienced open source contributors. And in the end, we received 294 responses from 10 campuses. Some of those campuses contributed a lot of responses, some of them only a few. We learned a lot of valuable lessons about survey distribution, particularly the importance of making friends with listserv administrators. So it was our first time doing it, and we're going to take those lessons into our future surveys. But for now, the data set we have is 294 responses. And of those, 233 were from experienced open source contributors. So our key findings, and I'm going to keep it really light and high level. We found that 92% of students and 93% of researchers report that open source is important for their work, or open source software is important for their work. We found that 58% of UC open source contributors have served at one time as project maintainers. There may have been a little bit of sampling bias where maybe the casual contributors were less inclined to take the survey, or maybe we had a harder time reaching the casual contributors with our survey announcements. But at any rate, the data we have show that over half of UC open source contributors have at one time been maintainers of a project. We also found that 32% of UC open source contributors have at one time shared code on a custom website. So we asked folks, where have you ever shared your code? Unsurprisingly, the #1 platform by far was GitHub, but the #2 response, most common response, was a custom website, which has a lot of implications for the findability, accessibility of that code. So from these data, I think we can conclude that open source software is very important for learning and research at UC. A large body of scholarly research is essentially invisible to the university. Arguably, the stuff on GitHub is also invisible, but particularly that stuff on custom websites, and particularly thinking about the university as kind of an institution that preserves knowledge. That knowledge is going to be really hard for us to preserve if it's on custom websites. And finally, because open source is so important for people's work, there's so many maintainers here, we see ample opportunities for the OSPO to make an impact. A key challenge we found in the data was project sustainability. So when we asked folks, how frequently do you encounter the following challenges? All of the top 3 answers were related to a lack of time. And the #1 time-related challenge was this one. We found that 76% of open source software contributors always or frequently struggle to find the time to write documentation. Other top challenges were the time to write code and time to educate myself. When we asked folks what solutions would be most helpful to you, the most popular answer was funding, in particular 30% of open source software contributors said the most helpful thing an OSPO could do is provide grants for sustainability. And assistance finding funding opportunities was also high on the list. And the comments we received from survey participants support this theme of sustainability. One person said, it seems easy to receive funding for a project in a fewer than 5-year time span, but what happens in year 6 when funding is out? Who supports the original project, which has attracted users, but none of them want to pay for the software? Another person said, maintenance is far more important than creating new stuff. And somebody else said, so many open source projects that provide tremendous value are eventually abandoned due to lack of resources/time and financial support. But we also found that it's not just about time and money. There's more to our open source community's needs beyond just resources. So we had a particular free response box where we asked folks to give us any other challenges or solutions or ideas that they wanted to tell us about. And we used qualitative analysis to group those comments into 3 overarching themes. And these are the themes that emerged from the data. Culture, interestingly, received the most comments, with resources close behind and infrastructure well behind. So some examples of these comments we tagged as culture. Administrators often fail to understand the value their organization receives when it uses open source software. Clarity from UC would be very useful. As far as I know right now, I am not allowed to contribute any of the code I write to an open source project. We also asked folks, why do you contribute to open source? And the top responses, the most common answers had to do with improving the tools and customizing the tools for my own needs. But we also received some comments about culture and values. So one person said, I contribute to stick it to the man. To push back, another person said, to push back against capitalist overreach. Another person said, it's in the spirit of academia. So looking at these comments, we can conclude that many open source software contributors at UC feel like their work is invisible. And also, open source contributors are motivated by more than just resources. So returning to our research questions, first, does UC need an OSPO? I think the data say yes, that open source is important, but also underfunded, undervalued, and often invisible. Number 2, what should that OSPO look like? I think, the paper goes into a lot more detail, but the 2 main takeaways are that number 1, the OSPO should help connect resources to promising projects. So students who are excited to work on a project, looking for internships, sponsors who are willing to donate, who want to interface with us and engage with us, we should make it as easy as possible for those folks to find open source projects that need the resources and support. Secondly, the OSPO should also raise awareness about the value of open source, both as value we use and as value we create. Another way of looking at this conclusion is thinking about, and this is sort of me layering my own interpretation on top of the data, that I think there's a virtuous cycle between culture and resources, where the more we raise awareness about open source and we promote this University of California as having a strong open source culture, it makes it easier to attract resources, which in turn can feed back into that open source culture. So I'll leave it at that, and you can scan this QR code or go to this URL in the UC OSPO website if you want to go to the survey webpage. There you can find the preprint, the data set. We made an infographic that you can download and a summary with advice for OSPOs. And the paper should be coming out in PLOS One very soon. We just got the email this morning that it was accepted. So yeah, thank you for your attention, and I think I'll take questions in the break or something. Yeah.
Okay, so I am going to go through some quick community updates first. For those who don't know me, hi, I'm Laura. I'm the community manager for the UC OSPO network. And I work with everyone across the UC system, not one campus in particular. And I work with people on in institutions and on campuses that do not currently have OSPOs. And so I'm a resource for everyone. Some examples of things that I do and things that I can help out with are I'm involved in pretty much everything across the network, the working groups, events, tools, and educational resources. And I also specialize in documentation. I made our repo templates with examples of templates for things like contributing.md and readme.md and soon to be citation.ff. That's one that's coming. So if you're not sure who to talk to about something open source related in the UC, you can start with me and I can direct you to the correct person to talk to if that person is not me. So what is a network of OSPOs? Like what does that do? So we are thousands, the UC has thousands of people working with or caring about open source, but most of them don't know about each other, even on the same campus, sometimes even in the same department. And the community that we're building will connect people across campus lines and across department lines. So whether you're a researcher, a developer, or staff, if you work with open source, you have peers at other campuses and other institutions within the UC, and we will help you find them. We have community events. The big news is we're launching all campus virtual meetups this summer. And those will take place the first Thursday of every month at 10 a.m. starting on the 2nd of July. The hosting will rotate between campuses. And so maybe like the first half of it is sort of whatever that campus wants to do. That might be like a guest speaker or a demo or a workshop. And then the second half will be sort of a community call. Updates on what the network has been doing, people sharing projects, asking questions, just very casual. There are also in-person and hybrid meetups hosted by the individual campus OSPOs, and we have calendars on our websites, and the individual OSPOs also have websites. There will be links at the end, don't worry. On the hackathon side, as mentioned yesterday, UCSD is doing the next iteration of Reboot the Earth. The first one was hosted by UCSC in November, and UCSD is doing one in just a couple of weeks with the UN. So we have built some tools across the network. Juanita is here today. She will be talking later about the Open Repository Browser, which helps solve that discovery problem that, like, how do I find projects about this thing? How do I find other people doing this open source work in my area? And Osprey is an AI-powered tool that helps assess the health of a repo and give you some ideas for things that you can do to improve the health of your repo and predict the sustainability. We have the repo templates that I have already mentioned. We also have some educational resources. If you heard Tim's talk yesterday, then you already know about those. And if you didn't, you can catch up with them on the recording, and you can find them on our website. And we have a services document on our website that details all the different kinds of services that the network provides, whether that's help with licensing or help with community management of your open source project, maintainer resources, contributor resources, all that kind of thing. So The network is growing, which is our job this year. UCSF has started the process of joining the network, and we're really focused on finding a home in the network for every UC campus. And so we would love to hear from people at Irvine and Riverside and Merced so that we can keep those conversations going. Virginia, whom you just heard from, is working on a sustainability playbook so that you can check out like how do other projects within the UC sustain themselves, and what ideas from what they do can I apply to my own situation. And it's usable by, it will be, it's not finished yet, it'll be usable by anyone, but it is centering the UC experience in particular. And so we connect people across every level. So there's that interdepartmental piece, and then the inter-campus, like different campuses within the UC itself. But we're also part of another network, sort of another meta level. We're a network of OSPOs across the UC campuses, but we're also part of Curious, which is a network of academic OSPOs across global campuses. And then even beyond that, we work with, or are starting to work with, OSPOs from industry, also across the globe. And so there's really that connection that we're building at kind of every level. That's where we're going with this. So, oh, wait, one sec. I would like to take this opportunity to let people from the individual campus OSPOs identify themselves so that people can put a face on each OSPO. And so I will invite our hosts. Berkeley, would you like to? Yes, please. And you have names. And great. And Davis? Is Peter here? Great, there's Peter. Yeah. Oh, Davessa will be here later. How about Santa Cruz? Oh, there we go. And Yelena. Yes. And Juanita. Yes. And Santa Barbara? I'm sorry? That would be good if I had a slide with the names. Did I have one with the names on the next slide? Oh my God, I did. I am 2 days ago me was much better organized than today me, let me tell you. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, saving me from my own conference week brain rot. Anyway, thank you. Oh, yes. And San Diego? There we go. And Los Angeles. Thank you, everyone. I think I have done them all. Excellent. Okay. So some ways that you can get involved with the we're at the network level. You can join our Slack workspace. All of these things that I'm about to mention are linked to from our website, which you can find using this QR code. So we have a Slack workspace, and we have a network newsletter. Each of the existing campus OSPOs. Oh, I just realized I forgot UCSF. UCSF is here. and is working on joining the network. Would you like to introduce yourselves? Excellent. And I run co-working office hours twice a week, on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. and on Thursday afternoons at 1 p.m. all Pacific time. And these are times that people can come in and co-work, just if you find it easier to get stuff done, if you are working alongside someone even though you're not talking. That's a thing for a lot of us. And office hours. So people just pop in and ask me questions about open source in general or about how something works on their campus. And if I don't know, I can find the person who does know. We have an events calendar. I was saying before I interrupted myself because I had remembered UCSF. I was talking about our newsletters. Each campus has its own mailing list, and we have a network level mailing list for those at institutions that do not currently have an OSPO. And my email address is lalangdon@ucdavis.edu. And again, all of these you can find on our website. And that is it for me today. We are ready for our AI panel.